Now, I noticed that the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, plus his ally, Chinese dictator Xi Jinping, they both skipped this UN General Assembly. It's a meeting of, world leaders, etc. this week. I was just wondering whether there isn't also some domestic trouble. He doesn't want to be out of the country at this time because, for instance, now his defence minister hasn't been seen publicly in a month. It seems he must be in some form of arrest. What do you make of what's going on there?
Yeah, well, there's been 3 serious high-level removals. One is his foreign minister, extramarital affairs, but what's being reported in the media to include a baby being born while he had that affair here in the United States when he was the ambassador to the United States. The defense minister, we don't know why he's no longer in his position. And he also removed their strategic rocket leader, high-ranking general officer, who was supposedly highly regarded. The sum of that is that President Xi, my speculation is this. I mean, after the party Congress, everybody he was surrounded with are people who had worked with him in the past. And I think he's getting more insecure and more paranoid as he stays in office longer, which is pretty typical for long-serving dictators. They believe the clock is ticking and the time is running out, and they start looking around in terms of who do they trust, who do they not trust. And President Xi fits that caricature of what is going on. So your concern about how paranoid he may be, I think is a factor in these decisions.
And of course, that has a terrible price to pay because everyone around him then gets too scared to tell him the truth about what's really going on. But to the battlefield, I can't let you go, General, without, because no one studies what's actually happening in Ukraine closer than you do. What is happening with the Ukrainian offensive? They've been trying to drive a wedge in the Russian-occupied south of Ukraine to split the Russian forces there. There doesn't seem to be any dramatic change. News that they keep advancing in one particular sector, but no dramatic change to look at the map.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. I mean, the progress is certainly much slower than they had expected, and they've really been slowed by the obstacles, so much so that the mechanized operations that we were expecting to see, that is tanks and armored fighting vehicles and artillery all on the move, that did not take place because of the formidable obstacles the Russians have in place. So what the Ukrainians have done, and this is where the Ukrainians are very adaptive. When they took those early casualties in June, they changed plans completely. They went to an acceptable form of maneuver called infantry infiltration to get into those, through those obstacles and also take territory. That is what they have been doing. They've been trying, they got through the main defensive line, took weeks to do it. And now they're trying to widen that so they can bring their mechanized forces in and do something that we were expecting to see, and that is mechanized operations where you're gaining territory much faster. If they're not able to do that, then they're not going to take much territory here, and that's the reality of it. We don't know what's going to happen. We know the Ukrainians have hurt the Russians quite a bit, Andrew. The casualties on the Russian side are pretty significant. Many of the Russian troops have been there for months. Morale is low. They're not being as well taken care of as you would expect them to be. So there are still opportunities here for the Ukrainians. But you're absolutely right, going much slower than expected. They have about 80 kilometers to get where they want to go to, so that they would split the main supply route and then be able to bring in long-range missiles and artillery to pummel Crimea, the Russian bases and depots and fuel sites that are in Crimea. Not to physically go into Crimea, but to destroy as much of the Russian military capability that's there.
They've only got 80 kilometres to go, but it's a long way still with minefields in front of you. And there's only a couple of months to go before winter sets in. General Keane, thank you so much for your time.